This is Gene Bailey. If you're unfamiliar, he's on this TV show called Flashpoint. It's a far-right, Trumpist-oriented TV show. Everything they say and do is built to help Donald Trump in one way or another. Of course, Trump was indicted on 37 counts, including espionage. So I wanted to see what these people had to say. As a matter of fact, the title of this one is Trump Indicted and American Awakening. It came out June 13th, 2023. So let's see what these nutter butters of epic proportions have to say about Trump being indicted. It's bound to be fascinating. And while we watch, we're going to play some Breath of the Wild 2. I'm just going to be running around grinding and picking up weapons and stuff. So that's about it.
Are watching Flashpoint. So glad you're on with us.
That was weird. His voice wasn't working for a second there.
Tonight, listen, this is a program you need to share. All your social media, go share this program with everybody you know because...
Okay, can do. Can do, buckaroo. I'm hitting it. I am sharing this with my social media.
Getting the truth out is almost our number one priority.
No, by no stretch of the imagination.
Every American needs to get the truth. So share this, get the truth out. All right, a lot happening today. I want to start off with Victory News Chief Correspondent Mike Garofalo. Bring us up to speed.
Gene, okay, this guy doesn't normally come on. It's only ever when there's some big news that they want to reveal or whatever, so...
Not guilty is what former President Donald Trump pleaded to 37 felony counts this afternoon at a federal courthouse in Miami. The counts involve mishandling of classified documents, obstructing justice, and making false statements. And today's courtroom proceeding makes Trump the first ex-president to ever be charged with federal crimes. The former president calls the case against him more evidence that the Department of Justice has been weaponized by Attorney General Merrick Garland and the Biden administration.
Wow, so they said, who said that?
Department of Justice has been weaponized by...
Hold on.
Former president calls the case...
Wow, the former president says that this is being weaponized against him or whatever. Who would have thought that he would have said such a thing, right? Are they going to say what the Department of Justice has said about this? Are they going to mention why this is happening to him in the first place? No, because this is propaganda. And as propaganda, their primary concern is to convince you that Trump is being mistreated in some way when it's simply not true. Trump broke the law, and now he has to face consequences for his actions. Honestly, he's probably not even going to face consequences. He hasn't so far. Oh, what, an arrest? Where there are basically no conditions to the arrest? He can go anywhere and do anything he wants? This is how propaganda works, specifically with these guys right here. They will tell one side of the story, make it sound like it's being told in a fair way, and they won't tell you the other side at all. That's basically how they do their work. That's how they propagandize.
Ex-president to ever be charged with federal crimes. The former president calls the case against him more evidence that the Department of Justice has been weaponized by Attorney General Merrick Garland and the Biden administration.
Absurd.
Here is what Florida Senator Marco Rubio had to say about today's events.
Oh, so now they're going to get a bunch of Republicans to tell you what to think about this, okay?
I think it's incredibly damaging to the country. I can tell you for certain what the damage to the country already is of this indictment. It's going to cause the judge is now being attacked. Excellent judge, the kind of people we want on the bench. She's going to be attacked.
This
the
is
credibility.
Aileen Cannon.
Correct. The institutions of our important institutions like the DOJ, the FBI, the like.
It sounds like he's speaking negatively about Trump because Trump's the one that attacks people, right? It like attacks judges and stuff. Am I misunderstanding?
Important institutions like the DOJ, the FBI, the like. These documents of this nature don't belong at Biden's garage. They don't belong in Hillary Clinton's server. They don't belong at Mar-a-Lago. But there's no allegation here. Even if you read the indictment, nowhere does it say, and as a result, the national security of the United States was harmed in this way.
Trump lawyers will...
Okay, wow, they cut it off at the very end there. Interesting. I mean, that could have very easily been interpreted as an endorsement of what was happening, or endorsement of Trump going to jail, basically, or Trump paying for what he did, or whatever. That's how I was reading it. I mean, I guess at the end, right, like a millisecond before they cut it off, I guess it could have been interpreted otherwise. But I would have really liked to have heard the entire context behind that. That's what they do, though. It's called clip chimping. They'll pull out a clip that fits what they want it to fit, and they won't show the rest. They won't talk about the context. They won't nothing.
Nowhere does it say, and as a result, the national security of the United States was harmed in this way.
Trump lawyers will likely challenge the legitimacy of the warrant for the original raid on Mar-a-Lago and ask if there is any evidence of America's national security being jeopardized or anyone being harmed by what.
That's irrelevant to the charges. So if they do ask those questions, they're wasting their time. That's not going to get him out of trouble.
Happened. After leaving the courthouse, the former president stopped at a Miami cafe, praying with religious leaders and buying meals for everyone there.
See, they got to make him look positive. They got to make him look good, right? Yeah, that's true. I believe that there was a planned meetup when he left the courthouse after his arrest. He planned to meet up with religious figures to strengthen his bond with the evangelical community. I mean, I don't see why that's good or what makes him special for doing that or whatever, but all right. As it turns out, apparently the dude walked into this restaurant, Versailles. It's a Cuban restaurant in Miami. Walks into this restaurant, says, food for everyone, and then 10 minutes later, leaves. Now his Trump supporters are saying, well, he was just saying that everyone gets to eat. He wasn't saying he was going to pay for it. They will defend absolutely anything, even when the dude's acting like a scumbag.
We have a country that is in decline like never before, and we can't let it happen. I'm going to make a little speech tonight in Bedminster. And,
Yeah, in the speech, it was pure unadulterated propaganda, of course. That's what I've come to expect from Trump. But he admitted to taking documents. He admitted to what he's being accused of in the speech he gave. I'm like, what is this dude thinking? He needs to shut his mouth and get out of the public spotlight because this is real.
I hope you're going to be there.
Trump then traveled to his golf club in New Jersey, where he will speak at 8:15 Eastern time tonight in just a few minutes. Gene, back to you.
Mike, how do you think these lawsuits are going to play out? As you know, 2024 is right around the corner. What do you think is going to happen?
Yeah, well, Gene, first off, they won't stop him from running legally. He can do that no matter.
Yeah, I agree. They're not going to stop him from running. I don't think they're even going to try. That's not the point here.
Really what happens. Second, Trump is a New Yorker at heart, of course, with a never say die spirit. So I don't see him going anywhere but to his signature rallies and then, of course, on the campaign trail. Gene.
Wow, he's got a never say die spirit because that's the spirit of New York City. Okay, interesting. I'm surprised to hear them complimenting New York City right now. Don't they, like, absolutely hate New York City or something? Okay, anyway, let's listen, I guess.
Thanks, Mike. All right, let me introduce our panel for tonight. Rick Green, Pastor Hank Kuhneman, and John Amanchukwu. Thank you.
Okay, I don't know the third guy or the fourth guy in this picture. I don't know him, but the other two here are absolute nutter butters of epic proportions. Like, I don't know how else to phrase this. They are insane.
Gentlemen, as we get started, those of you who don't know who John is, he's an influential preacher, author, activist, spreads God's truth zealously without fear. It's the thing I love about John. He's bold. He's an Amazon best-selling author of Erased, Uncovering the Lies of Critical Race Theory and Abortion. He's first assistant and youth adult pastor, Upper Room Church of God of Christ from Raleigh, North Carolina. John, thank you. Let me go to you first out of
Okay, so he's just like an extremist, basically, is the point. Awesome. Alrighty then.
This with what's going on with Trump. What do you think? Do you agree with what we heard there from Marco Rubio, that this is just a bunch of show, that it's really, I'm kind of paraphrasing, but he alludes to the fact there's no real beef to this.
No beat or meef. Neither of those things, okay? Or meat or beef. That's not what Marco Rubio was saying, to my knowledge. It seemed like Rubio was kind of implying that there may be something to this.
There's no beef to it. This is another witch hunt to silence his voice. And if they're going to try to silence his voice, they're trying to silence the voice of many people in America who believe in the America First agenda. This is a witch hunt. Let me repeat, it's a witch hunt.
This is sad, dude. These people aren't even being paid by Donald Trump to repeat this garbage. How sad is this, honestly? They're doing this for free.
They don't have anything on him, and so they're seeking to cancel him and bludgeon him before the next election. But Trump is diehard, and he won't quit.
No, he won't quit. Let me go to you, Rick. We got some video here of this is President Trump heading to court. But talk to us, Rick, about what's happening here. Do you see anything that is going to be negative come out of this, except for maybe making some people mad?
Other than making some people mad. Yeah, well, if what you mean is Donald Trump going to jail, then the answer is probably no. Maybe house arrest. Maybe. Anybody else in this position, in this situation, would absolutely go to jail, though. I mean, these charges are real. This is no joke.
Well, I think what Marco Rubio said is right. The negative is really for the system itself. We're all, completely losing faith in these institutions like the Department of Justice and FBI. I did this a year ago when they did the raid on Mar-a-Lago. I went to the course, Gene, that you offer, biblical citizenship, and I read from James Otis in 1761. He said, and this was the writs of assistance that they used to raid Trump's house in the first place.
So what he's doing here is shouting out his own thing, because he is the guy that started the biblical citizenship thing. As insane as it is, it's basically doing everything you can to erode the line between church and state. That's really the whole point of it. Lauren Boebert has endorsed the biblical citizenship stuff before. Anyways, he's just shouting out his own thing here, sounds like.
He said, and this was the writs of assistance that they used to raid Trump's house in the first place, that these instruments of arbitrary power and destructive of liberty, they violate the very fundamental principles of law. They create petty tyrants. And then John Adams, 15 years later, would say that speech about writs of assistance is where liberty, where independence was born. And 15 years later, it grew up into adolescence in 1776. I say all that, Gene, to say what they're doing to Donald Trump right now is going back in time to...
Okay, none of what he said just now made any sense. And to my knowledge, none of it was even true. Writ of assistance? I haven't heard of that one. I've heard of writ of mandamus. I've heard of a bunch of different writs. But what's the writ of assistance? Let's just Google this. What's the writ of assistance? A general search warrant issued by superior provincial courts to assist the British government, to allow the British government in enforcing trade and navigation laws. Warrants authorize custom house officers, blah, blah, blah. So the writ of assistance sounds like an old British thing. It's not part of American law, as far as I can tell. Never was. It was like British colonial law. He's just using big words, what he believes to be big words, that no one is really going to understand, intentionally, so that he sounds like he knows what he's talking about. When you look this stuff up, you find out how completely full of it this dude is. He has no idea what he's talking about. Writ of assistance does not apply to this situation in any way, shape, or form. The thing that would apply in this situation is the Fourth Amendment, not the writ of assistance. That was like the rules governing search and seizure in British colonies, basically. That's what the writ of assistance was.
I say all that, Gene, to say what they're doing to Donald Trump right now is going back in time to the very things that created the American Revolution in the first place. They are destroying the system. And look.
That's a threat. That's an implicit threat, seems to me. He's telling people, if you continue to do something that I don't like, then we are going to go to war with you again. That's what he's saying, seems to me.
Look, even the things that they're claiming about him, I think Newt Gingrich's article in the Epic Times probably describes all of this better than anybody. He said
the Epic Times is an absolutely insane news outlet. It's not even a news outlet. It's unglued from reality. And also, Newt Gingrich is unglued from reality, for what it's worth. So
It's all about the wrong indictments. They should be indicting the FBI agents that hid evidence, the FBI agents that lied and made up evidence.
They didn't, though. That's the thing. I'm sorry. I know I'm stopping every 3 seconds here, but I have to. I cannot let them get away with propagandizing like this. They're straight up making this up. The FBI agents did not, fabricate evidence or lie or any of that stuff. There's absolutely zero evidence to back that position up. Zero. But if they say it enough, especially to Trump supporters, people will believe them. If they say it enough, people will believe them. That's what it's all about. And, the people that watch this program are already primed to believe anything that these people say. Anything. They love these people like their own mother and trust them with their lives, honestly. It's kind of disgusting. Like how they treat these people. How they view these guys. Let's step back, listen to it in its full context, and I'll address that.
Anybody? He said it's all about the wrong indictments. They should be indicting the FBI agents that hid evidence, the FBI agents that lied and made up evidence. They should be indicting Hillary Clinton for 32,000 emails that she destroyed, and whoever the guy was that hammered the hard drive to destroy them. They should be indicting Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. I mean, all of those things that are happening.
Yeah, so I don't want to let him get away with, propagandizing like that. Let me explain that. During the 2016 campaign, Hillary Clinton was being hit for using a private email server. Now, she didn't use it for classified documents. Nothing on there was classified. Maybe it should have been. There's an argument that could have reasonably been classified, some of that stuff. But nothing was. Nothing was classified. There was no wrongdoing found when they did their whole investigation. The FBI investigated Hillary Clinton upside downs, forward and backwards. And they didn't find any wrongdoing here. No intent. But what Hillary Clinton did, what they're talking about here, she smashed hard drives with hammers or whatever. There is, I know this from being in the software world. I was a software engineer for 6 years before being a YouTuber, right? And I know that the Department of Defense has absurd rules about how to handle classified documents. So when you're done with a phone or a computer or something that once had classified information on it at one time, you're supposed to destroy it completely. You're supposed to make it beyond recoverable. And they do that by writing over the hard drives 7 times with zeros. When you delete something, when you drag and drop it into the trash bin or whatever, it's not deleting the file. It's not deleting the data. It's deleting the computer's link to the data. It just erases the pointer in the system that points to the document. So the Department of Defense's rule is don't just delete things. Don't just overwrite the hard drive with zeros, but overwrite it with zeros 7 times. That's the standard, the Department of Defense standard. And that's what Hillary Clinton did. She uses a program called BleachBit that does that exact thing. She's just following protocol. That's exactly what she's supposed to do. Trump misunderstood, didn't know what BleachBit was, so said that she was bleaching and acid washing hard drives, not realizing that she's just using a program called BleachBit. Now, as far as the smashing with hammers thing, that's also what you're supposed to do. After overwriting it with zeros 7 times, if you're really done with the hard drive, you're not going to use it again, you smash it with mallets. So it is completely unrecoverable. These are all part of the deal or whatever. This is all what you're supposed to do. She was following, the law as it's written. Or she's following protocol. It's not the law. She's following protocol as it was written. That's the standard. And they're making fun of her for it and saying that she broke laws and rules and why was she hitting him with hammers and blah, blah, blah. Making a joke out of it when She was following protocol exactly. So let's step back. Listen again.
1,000 emails that she destroyed, and whoever the guy was that hammered the hard drive to destroy them, they should be indicting Joe Biden and Hunter Biden. I mean, all of those things that are happening.
What should they be indicting Joe and Hunter Biden for exactly? What did they do? What do you think that they did? These people live in a fantasy land. Seriously.
They're going after the guy they shouldn't be going after, ignoring the ones they should be going after, and that makes all of us distrust the system. So the group getting harmed the most is really the nation itself and the rule of law.
So true.
No, it's not true. Like, nothing he said was true. Literally nothing. It was all fabricated nonsense. This is just sad, man.
Pastor Hank Kuhneman, give you a chance to comment on that. I mean, we all remember Hillary Clinton and the email scandal and all the servers, 30,000 emails. Where do you think this is going to land, Pastor?
Yeah, Hillary Clinton had 30,000 emails. This is true. She had 30,000 emails on an email server. And you know what? Those emails were recovered. Russia hacked into her email system. Again, it wasn't classified information. There was nothing classified in those emails. But Russia did hack in and released them through WikiLeaks, which is not entirely, but partly why Julian Assange is under fire right now. Why they want to get him and put him in Florence 80X Supermax. Because he assisted in stealing government secrets. Not just Hillary Clinton's emails, but like a bunch of other stuff that he really shouldn't have taken. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. The point here is that Hillary did everything completely above board. There's nothing wrong with the way that she did all of that stuff, honestly. Should she be using a private email server? Probably not. She probably should have used a government one instead for a lot of that stuff. But it wasn't that bad. It wasn't anywhere near on the same level as what we're looking at right now with Trump. Not even close. This is insane what Trump did.
Well, you know what? Again, in our country, it's a real shame when you see that there is perverted justice. And the true justice, sometimes it doesn't seem like that it's being served or that it comes. This is why it's so important that we as the body of Christ, the remnant, we need to be in a place like Luke chapter 18 where...
Yeah, when he says remnant, he's referring to a specific Bible verse. He basically says that the world will fracture into pieces at the end, and a remnant church will remain and worship God in the true way. They believe they're the only true believers, the remnant.
That it's being served or that it comes. This is why it's so important that we as the body of Christ, the remnant, we need to be in a place like Luke chapter 18 where there was a widow who went against an unjust judge who did not, watch this, regard God or regard man. What we have here with this situation with President Trump is we have some people.
He's not the president. He's Mr. Trump to you.
Their party is the party, come on, the Democratic Party of the non-religious. In other words...
No, it's not. It's not the party of the non-religious. I wish that it was. It's not. Unfortunately, they're still very religious in the Democratic Party.
They don't regard God. And because they don't regard God, they don't regard sometimes what I call just basic treatment on how to treat a human being. And they go the
this coming from Hank Kuhneman and the evangelical extremists.
Perverted route. But this is really a battle between good versus evil. But how is it going to turn out? God has told us. Pastor Gene, I just want to read very quickly a couple of bullet points.
Please, bullet point. Bullet point away. Just bullet point me.
Pastor Gene, I just want to read very quickly a couple of bullet points. October 23rd of 2022, God said that President Trump would fly his plane again. That was before he made his announcement.
Yeah, so this is interesting. He says August 2022. Is that? I think that's what he said. He says God said Trump will fly his plane. I don't remember seeing that in the Bible. Hank Kuhneman believes that he is speaking to God, and God gave him this secret message to give to the rest of the world, to disseminate to everybody else. Dude lives in a fantasy land where he is like some special prophet or something. Embarrassing.
quickly a couple of bullet points. October 23rd of 2022, God said that President Trump would fly his plane again. That was before he made his announcement. March 19th of 2023, God says, I'm not done with President Trump, even though they will seek to bring indictments and arrests. March 23rd of 20.
Well, he said they'll seek to bring indictments and arrest at the time because he was indicted and arrested for his role in the Stormy Daniels hush money thing. So that wasn't completely out of the blue. This is called the Texas sharpshooter fallacy and corresponding propaganda. Texas sharpshooter fallacy and propaganda technique. There's usually a propaganda technique for each fallacy, generally. It doesn't follow an exact pattern like that, but yeah. What he does is he makes like 6 claims back to back to back to back, and of varying different quality and varying different subjects, keeps doing it over and over and over across the course of years, and stays informed on what's happening in the news. And when he finds something that happens that could kind of loosely correlate a little bit to what he said a couple years ago, he pulls that one back up. Says, see, look, I knew. I was right all along. The Texas sharpshooter fallacy. You're ignoring the misses and focusing in on the hits. Throwing stuff at a wall and seeing what sticks.
Announcement. March 19th of 2023, God says, I'm not done with President Trump, even though they will seek to bring indictments and arrests. March 23rd of 2021, God says there's 2 in the earth that will rise back up in power again. I put my hand upon, I speak of Netanyahu. Well, he's back in power. And God said, I also...
Yeah, Netanyahu's the leader, the prime minister of Israel right now. He's an extremist, a far-right extremist. I am not a fan of Netanyahu at all. I wish they could get somebody slightly more to the left in power in Israel. It's really disappointing to see.
Put my hand upon, I speak of Netanyahu. Well, he's back in power. And God said, I also speak of President Trump. Lastly, May 21st, 2017, God said this, they are trying to frame President Trump, but they've left something out of their frame, out of their picture. They've left God. You know, when there's cockroaches that are...
Okay, I don't know what any of that means or what it has to do with anything at all. But he's acting like since it was said in 2017, it's like something special, like he had some special insight all the way back then. He didn't. He didn't know any more back then than he knows now. In fact, he was far less knowledgeable then. He's just using the Texas sharpshooter fallacy.
Out of their frame, out of their picture. They've left God. You know, when there's cockroaches that are hiding, the best thing you can do is spray Raid. That Raid on Mar-a-Lago is causing the cockroaches to come out, and I believe that justice, the justice of God, true justice, is going to hold the truly guilty to a place where they're going to be held accountable. But here's how it's going to turn out. God said all of these indictments are like these feathers, and we're going to...
Wow, he's got a prop. He brought props. Okay, interesting.
God said all of these indictments are like these feathers, and we're going to watch them just begin to fall. Because there's something on President Trump that the enemy fears. It's called the anointing. And when the anointing is there on a person, it brings a certain preservation. And as long as we, the people, pray, like in Luke 18, and we have faith, we're going to see things turn around, and that's exactly where our country's heading. We're going to see a great reversal and a great reset come to our country.
Wow, dude, that's a lot. Okay, that was just fallacy built on top of faulty premise, built on top of propaganda right there. That was nuts, dude. Okay, well, he thinks he's some kind of special prophet that has access to God. That's what blows me away. Does he honestly believe this? I mean, he, in my opinion, has blatantly lied, pretended to faith heal them when he knew that he wasn't actually faith healing them, in my opinion. Did he actually know that he was lying? Who knows? It seemed like it. But is he lying in this case, I wonder? Hard to tell.
Exactly where our country's heading. We're going to see a great reversal and a great reset come to our country.
I so agree. In fact, this weekend in Ohio, Kenneth Copeland preached about the covenant that we have with George Washington.
Yeah, I actually covered that. It should be on my Unfiltered channel and my main channel, actually, partially. If you guys want to see that, I did it live on my main channel, part of it. But then uploaded an edited version to Unfiltered. probably just before this video release. So keep a lookout if you want to see it.
First act and the first president, and we've got a commitment. We've got a commitment to Christ. Now, that doesn't alleviate us of our duty, yet we can rely on that. So we need to call that back into being. So that's a good point there, Pastor Hank. Let me show you this, because sometimes you got to love CNN for putting the wrong guy on TV. Watch Andrew McCabe. Watch.
You know the facts. What are the facts?
Well, Dan, as you know, cases come down to facts and evidence, not politics. And these two cases could not be more different on the facts. So let's talk about what we actually found in the Hillary Clinton email case. Yes.
Wait, why are we talking about Hillary Clinton again? Seriously. What does she have to do with anything? Honestly, nothing. They absolutely insist on talking about how Hillary Clinton victimized them in some ridiculous way. Get over it, people. Okay, Hillary Clinton hasn't been in the spotlight in how long now? 8 years has it been, at least? Please, move on with your lives. Okay? She didn't do anything legally wrong, whether you like that or not.
Hillary Clinton maintained private servers. Emails went across those servers. Ultimately, she returned 30,000 emails to the Department of Defense, work-related emails. In addition to those, we found thousands more emails that she exchanged with people. The total classified materials seized from that review were essentially 55 email conversations.
From my understanding, there was nothing classified in there. Like I said, should it have been? Probably, some of it. But it wasn't. Nothing that she did on her private email server was classified. She wasn't having conversations about things that were classified, basically, ahead of time. So, it's completely made up. Now, why is this guy saying all of this? Like, why is he spreading this on CNN? Like, because he's carrying water for Donald Trump. He's doing anything he can to help Trump right now. Embarrassing. And Flashpoint says, wow, can you believe they shouldn't have gotten that guy on CNN? I bet they're regretting it now. No, they brought him on because CNN is moving to the right. That was very intentional. It wasn't like an accident.
Emails, in which 8 were classified top secret, 37 secret, and 10 confidential. Now, it's important to remember, those weren't classified documents. That was simply the content of email exchanges that was later deemed to be classified. These weren't documents with classified stampings on the top.
Right, exactly. They were not classified when she sent them. Should they have been? Maybe. They weren't.
Tops and bottoms and cover sheets and all that kind of stuff. Should it have happened? No. But what we didn't have was evidence that Hillary Clinton had intentionally exchanged or withheld classified information. And that's just what we could and could not prove at the end of the day. In the Trump case, you have, 300 plus classified documents, full documents, seized from his residence at Mar-a-Lago, most of which, from the photographs we've seen, had headers and footers, the proper stampings, portion markings on paragraphs, cover sheets indicating they were some of the most classified materials we have.
Right, exactly.
And then, of course, he engaged in a long series of exchanges and activity in an effort to obstruct that investigation.
Yeah, and that's really what mattered. That's what people were, that's what got him in trouble at the end of the day, was the fact that he engaged in obstruction efforts. Joe Biden, Mike Pence, and others, they also had classified documents. But they didn't obstruct justice. They didn't do everything they could to prevent people from getting this stuff back. There's a difference.
Very, very different fact.
All right, so let me show you this, everybody watching at home. Now, look, you see the graphic there. He's the former deputy director, and we're seeing all of these things, and he sounded so believable, didn't he? And you notice the graphic at the bottom of the screen. Listen, this is why.
Well, it sounded like it was like in support of indicting Trump. That guy sounded like he was endorsing indicting Trump and pointing out the differences between what Trump did and what Hillary did. For what it's worth, I don't like Hillary. I don't care about Hillary. She's completely irrelevant. Send her to court and see how it shakes out, for all I care. As Emily Neptune says. Agreed. But that's the thing. They did an investigation. She didn't even make it to court because there was nothing there. She didn't really do anything wrong. I mean, she did something that is kind of questionable or whatever. It was not stealing documents from the U.S. government and hiding them and lying to the federal government when they asked for them back. That's what Trump did. It sounds like, based on what Gene Bailey is saying here, it sounds like he expected that clip to be more critical of Hillary and less critical of Trump because he said they got the wrong guy on CNN. Well, it started out that way, but by the end, it was pretty much in support of sending Trump to jail, right? It seemed to me.
He sounded so believable, didn't he? And you notice the graphic at the bottom of the screen. Listen, this is why friends don't let friends watch mainstream media. You don't need to watch that. That's why you're watching it, because you want the truth. Look at what
Wow, that's fascinating. You don't watch that. You watch this because you want the truth. Isn't that something? Wow, dude. I got to write this one down. I haven't been writing stuff down lately, but I gotta make note of this one. 11:30. Hang on. Unglued from reality.
It said, some in the GOP compare Trump doc charges to Clinton email case, but facts are different. Well,
yeah, facts are different.
Speaker McCarthy had another viewpoint. Let me show you what he had to say about it.
Oh, another one of Trump's propagandists? Okay, let's hear it.
Is not playing out here. And so that's a real concern to all Americans. So as a policymaker, elected officials, we want to make sure it's equal justice for all. We want to look at it's weaponization. Now, you're with CNN, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about this even further, because when somebody weaponizes government and they actually get removed from government, let's take Andrew McCabe, okay? Former deputy.
But this is a different case.
Let me answer the question.
This is a different set of circumstances, right? I mean, the former president is accused of misleading law enforcement, of a conspiracy of obstructing justice.
Yep.
That's a different set of facts. Are you prepared to defend him as the former president, and what other actions will the House take in the House Judiciary Committee in terms of funding?
Are you prepared to defend your network, CNN?
I'm
answering your question. You could ask me any question you want, but I'm entitled to answer the question, okay?
Okay, no, that doesn't make any sense. Are you going to answer the question she asked or not? Obviously, the answer is no. He does not intend to answer the question.
You can't put words in my mouth, even though your
What? Was she trying to do that? This guy is just stalling now. He doesn't know what to do. He doesn't know what to say. He's just going to stall and pretend that he's the persecuted one or whatever. That's like the Republican back pocket trick lately.
Network can hire Andrew McCabe, who was fired from the FBI for leaking classified documents. Did you remove him from your network? No, you continue to put him on.
Again, this is a deflection. Now, I talked about this recently because Biden did this, a similar type of deflection. But the deflection that Biden did was done because the reporter was propagandizing and trying to spread lies about him, basically.
Give judgment against President
Mr.
Trump.
Speaker.
You also hire Clapper. Clapper has come out publicly.
Mr. Speaker,
and
what steps is the House going to take in terms of, is there any effort to defund the FBI?
This is a correct thing to do, like from a press position. The correct thing to do would be to deflect and point out errors that the reporter or somebody else of whatever variety has done. That's the correct PR decision. He's doing the PR decision. I don't know why he's defending Trump, though. Don't defend Trump. He was a scumbag. Doesn't this guy remember what Trump did to him? How he treated him? I can't believe this guy would defend somebody that did all of that garbage to him.
FBI, any effort to defund the Department of Justice after what you've seen over the last several days?
So your network hires Clapper, who literally lied to the American public, one of 51 other individuals that had briefings and used it politically.
So what? Who cares? This is whataboutism. He's deflecting. He's trying to point the blame in any direction other than where it belongs, which is squarely on Donald Trump's shoulders. squarely on Donald Trump's shoulders. Oh my God, I'm going to get this word out. It's completely made up. Like, this whole problem, this whole issue is fabricated and designed to help Donald Trump. Why is he helping Trump? Why doesn't he just refuse to, like, talk to the press or whatever? This makes no sense to me.
To tell the American public that a laptop was Russia collusion, even though it had all this information about the Biden administration. Are you prepared to get rid of those people from your network? Because
yeah, this is all, it's more deflection. He's talking about Hunter Biden's laptop, like we give a shit about his laptop.
my concern as a policymaker is that when you weaponize government and now you're weaponizing networks, that is wrong. So we will take all of our power to make sure that the legal system in America gets the blinders back on and people are treated fairly.
Whoa, there you go, Rick. You gotta love, that's the way you handle CNN in an interview.
Well, it was very politically intelligent of him to do. Now, was it, like, wrong? Was it terrible? Absolutely. Like, he was just propagandizing the whole time. But that is, it's a good lesson in how to handle the press, for sure.
Don't get any wise ideas there, Rick or Hank, you guys. But listen, I love that he called him out. This is the reality. Yeah. He may have been former deputy director, but listen, he was employed for leaking classified information, Rick.
Okay, I don't know what they're talking about I don't know what this has to do with anything else, but all right.
What are we to do with this?
Well, first of all, every time I get upset with McCarthy over something like the debt ceiling negotiations, he comes out and hits a grand slam like this. True. I mean, he clearly went to the school of Donald Trump on how to handle reporters that are frankly worthless in the way that they're doing their job. And a great reminder for people out there, it's your answer that matters, not the question. No offense, Gene. I mean, not in this case. That's not what I'm referring to. But Kevin McCarthy handled this incredibly well, and it's absolutely true. The hypocrisy is on.
Yeah, he did handle it well from a PR perspective. Got to give him that.
Display for the whole world to see, which I think is the good news here. Remember, the sunlight is the disinfectant. We've watched these J6 defendants be treated under an unjust system, totally different than the BLM rioters and the Antifa rioters. But
Antifa, he says, the Antifa rioters. Yeah, okay. So the J6 people are not random people who were randomly trying to whatever. They didn't go to a protest that got out of hand. These are people that actually set out to undermine the authority of the U.S. government and commit sedition. Really. That's why they're getting like 20 years. Because they planned this whole thing ahead of time. Worked with Roger Stone, who in turn worked with Donald Trump to accomplish the goal of undermining our democratic system violently in one giant burst. That was what happened, actually. That's why they're not being treated the same as people who were at a BLM rally or whatever. And for the record, BLM protesters have been treated really terribly. During Trump's term, there was a period of time when people were having bags thrown over their head and they were put into vans and taken away. Unmarked vans, unmarked police officers. Seriously. Just disturbing stuff. Deeply disturbing stuff. And these people didn't seem to care at all at the time.
But they didn't have the money or the platform to really push back and fight back. Donald Trump does. They picked on the wrong guy here. And what they want is social justice. What we want is biblical justice. In fact, you need to get John's book. Go to erasedbook.com because John teaches this stuff way better than I do.
Wow. So they don't want they don't want justice for society. They want justice in a biblical sense, which I guess means stone people if they do something that they're not supposed to in the eyes of the Bible. Wow. Okay. This is from Frankenstein. You know how sociopaths break people by being mean and then nice? That's how Trump made McCarthy his servant dog. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Absolutely. I think you're correct on that. And that's not just sociopaths. That's abusive people. That's an abuse tactic. Be really nice and be really mean, nice and mean. Bounce back and forth to prevent people from leaving your side. And you know what they say. If you kick a dog enough, it'll think it did something to deserve it. So maybe that's what's happening with McCarthy. Who knows?
But the whole point is we need to come back to biblical justice, which is what Hank was really saying as well, which is blind justice equal justice under the law.
Okay, I don't think that's the justice system that the Bible endorsed, but all right.
Not this business of depending on which political party you have, what money you have, what color skin you have. Everybody's treated different depending on those things. That is not.
Well, see, that's the interesting thing here. The fact that Trump is being charged right now is a sign that maybe the system does treat, that maybe no one is above the law. Maybe. But we know that Trump is still above the law because he's being treated far better than anybody else who did this exact thing would be treated. Let's see how his buddy Walt Nauta gets out of this situation. Let's see how he ends up. Or let's see what sentence he comes out of this with. I would bet anything Walt Nauta is going to get a more serious sentence than Trump, depending on a number of factors. We'll see what happens. If you're unfamiliar, Walt Nauta was the guy that helped Trump move the documents and conspired to lie to the FBI with him and stuff. He was his co-conspirator. And they're basically being charged together. Walt, Nauta, and Trump.
Not the American way. It's got to stop, and that's why we need to get rid of the FBI. Frankly, the Department of Justice needs to be completely top down, dismantled, and rebuilt if we're going to have one at all at this point.
Wow, don't have a Department of Justice? Are you kidding me? No Department of Justice and no FBI, apparently. Is he aware of, like, what he's asking for, of what he wants? Is he aware of the consequences of what he's talking about right now? Like, what would happen? That is absolutely insane. That is an insane thing to suggest.
Point.
I agree. Although I don't understand why you're so nice to everybody else on the show, but not me. What?
God, this is painful and cringy. I don't know if you guys were aware of this, but jokes reveal your internal feelings, your true feelings about things. When people make self-deprecating jokes, not always, but a lot of the time, unless it's some specific inside joke, they make those self-deprecating jokes because they feel that way about themselves. The types of jokes people tell reveal a lot about who they are and what they believe and how they feel about themselves and stuff. So when this guy says everybody treats him poorly, it's an indication that he feels underappreciated, undervalued. He feels like people don't like him, that kind of thing. He probably doesn't even realize that. If I were him, I would keep those jokes to a minimum. Painful.
I haven't done.
You invite it, man.
Lance is out. Lance is out tonight, so you felt like you should be that guy.
That's
okay.
You nailed it. Exactly.
All right, John Amanjuku, I need some help here, brother. You heard Rick there. You agree? Disagree? Where is this going?
I agree with Rick 100% about everything that he said, even my book. Go to erasedbook.com to get a copy of that. But listen to me. We just
Erased, E-R-A-C-E. So R-A-C, race is a part of the of what it says here. Erased. Okay, interesting.
witnessed WWE Raw. It was SmackDown. Kevin McCarthy. That's the kind of leadership that we need right now. He doesn't always get it right, but on that issue right there, he was spot on.
See, this is fascinating. There's like what would you call it? Like a reward system, a system of rewards and punishments set up here. If McCarthy does the right thing and follows along and defends Trump the way that he's expected to, he's rewarded for that through, positive press coverage, people talking about how good of a person he is and how he's so great and all that other stuff. But if he doesn't defend Trump, if he just dodges, they attack him. A system of rewards and punishments. That's fascinating. I usually see that out of cults rather than, between politicians. But okay. I mean, fundamentally, a cult is just an abusive relationship between the adherent and the group. So that's why you find a lot of similarities between, abusive relationships and cults. Yeah, I mean, I guess you could say that Trump is like engaged in an abusive relationship in large part with a lot of the people that he deals with. Like everybody, he takes advantage of everybody around him, include all the politicians and everything. It's all about taking advantage of people.
We saw what happens when you have fake news versus the truth. The truth is they want to continually cut him off in the interview, don't allow him to speak, shut him up, don't let him talk as a means of keeping the truth from being exposed. CNN is the worst media outlet out there.
Well, fascinating.
They could take a lot of lessons from Flashpoint and the work that we do here. I see.
See, this is really something that I have a huge problem with. Flashpoint is representing themselves as a media outlet when they're not at all. They were never a news outlet. They're not journalists. I mean, I guess they're a media outlet. They're not journalists by any stretch of the imagination. Flashpoint, simply put, are political commentators, just like me. I'm a political commentator too, not a journalist. There's a distinct difference. A lot of YouTubers confuse the two and think that they are journalists. You're not a journalist. You're a political commentator. You have no understanding of the ethics that journalists, have to adhere to be a part of the field. You haven't taken those ethics classes. You have no understanding of what's involved in not being biased in reporting and throwing a report together. You have no idea. Okay? You walked into this situation and got famous as a YouTuber. I'm just talking about general YouTubers. You got famous because you're in this situation. That does not mean you're an expert in this field. It doesn't mean you're an expert at journalism. Doesn't mean you're an expert at, cults. I'm not an expert at cults either. Doesn't mean you're an expert in a field just because you're famous in that field. I feel like this is a really important point to drive home because YouTubers don't seem to understand a lot of the time the difference between a political commentator and a journalist. And right here we see it on display. These people don't seem to understand the difference between political commentary and journalism. Flashpoint doesn't.
This as a red herring. It's another opportunity and a strategy to silence the voice of reason, and we can't let this happen on our watch.
Amen. Good word.
Just absurd, dude.
All right. Well, meanwhile, let's go hear what Senator Chuck Grassley had to say. Remember that whole laptop thing and Burisma and all of that story? Well, that's still going. Listen to what Chuck Grassley had to say.
That the foreign national who allegedly bribed Joe and Hunter Biden.
What, allegedly you say? Foreign national allegedly bribed Joe and Hunter Biden? Where did you hear this? Who told you this? Who alleged this? Do you have answers for me? Sounds completely made up. Can you give me any evidence at all of any of this? I'll take anything.
Allegedly has audio recordings of his
Boy, he's saying the word allegedly a lot, isn't he?
conversation with them. 17 such recordings. According to the 1023, the foreign national possesses 15 audio recordings of phone calls between him and Hunter Biden.
Okay, well, why are you telling us about this instead of playing them for us? Is it because you don't have those recordings? Turn those recordings up or clamp it. I get so sick of hearing these people propagandize and lie and twist things around and complain about Hunter Biden when Donald Trump is legitimately doing things that are legitimately bad. These people are deflecting and ignoring and pretending it's not happening, closing their eyes and their ears and saying la la la, refusing to see what's right in front of their faces. What Donald Trump did is genuinely bad. And they're sitting here talking about some recordings that allegedly exist about Hunter Biden or with Hunter Biden? Like what? Hunter isn't even in government. Why do I give a shit about him? This is just absurd, man.
According to the 1023, The foreign national possesses 2 audio recordings of phone calls between him and then Vice President Joe Biden.
Okay, give them to us then. Let's hear it. Who is this person even? They haven't even told us who supposedly has recordings. They haven't even told us what's on these recordings. They haven't given us anything. Like, what are they even talking about?
These recordings were allegedly kept as a sort of insurance policy for the foreign national in case that he got into a tight spot.
In case he got into a tight spot, okay.
1023 also indicates that then Vice President Joe Biden may have been involved in bereavement employing Hunter Biden. Based on the facts known...
Well, we know that Hunter Biden was very well connected. As a matter of fact, he's so well connected that Tucker Carlson asked him to write a recommendation for his son to a private school. And he, in fact, did write that recommendation for Tucker Carlson's son. Hunter Biden is well connected in his own right. Aside from anything else, aside from his dad or whatever, Hunter Biden's well connected. And that's why they hired him to work on the board of Burisma, because he's well connected. Didn't have anything to do with Joe Biden. Didn't even need to have anything to do with him. He has his own thing going on, always has. Anyway, if he did something wrong, then charge him. Simple as that. Like, I have no emotional connection to Hunter Biden. I just want this to be kept in perspective. I want us to approach this with a little bit of logic for once. Because people don't seem to understand the meaning of the term logic.
To the Congress and the public, it's clear that the Justice Department, the FBI, haven't nearly had the same laser focus on the Biden family.
I wonder why. Really? Justice Department hasn't had the same laser focus? You think maybe that's because the Biden family didn't do anything or didn't do as much wrong as the Trump family? They're just playing all the propagandists, right? They're playing video of all of the people who love Trump to their dying breath, would do anything for the guy. It's like embarrassing and sad. Please, people. Like, have a little self-respect. A little. I'm not asking for the world here, I don't think.
I think he pretty well nailed it. I mean, the laser focus they've had on Mar-a-Lago and Trump and, oh, this is horrible. You know, I mean, it seems to be. I mean, how long has this been going on with I mean, that goes back to 2018, some of these allegations.
Yeah, that's because a lot of people believed that you shouldn't indict a sitting president. So a lot of this stuff was delayed until after Trump left office. And also, the justice system moves slowly. That's just part of it. You know, that's just what it is. Justice system moves slowly. So obviously, it's going to be a while before they get around to like doing any of the charging or whatever.
Well, in fact, some of the things that the FBI they've had since 2015. So they've sat on this stuff for years. And
like, what stuff are you talking about? What is he even referring to right now? What stuff?
And Gene, I mean, this is just in case we have some viewers out in maybe like San Francisco or other places where they haven't used their brains for a while, and we need to really draw this carefully.
Oh, give me a break.
Listen, this is not just a phone conversation with just anyone. Just the fact that Joe Biden has a phone conversation with this guy proves Joe Biden.
What guy? Who are we even talking about? What are you going on about right now? They will come up with any reason to turn Joe Biden into the bad guy. Any reason. Even as Trump is being indicted for espionage. Joe Biden's the bad guy. This is just embarrassing, guys. Please.
Biden a liar. Remember how he promised that he hadn't had anything to do with Hunter Biden's business deals, didn't meet with any of Hunter Biden's business people. So here we have 2 phone calls with a Burisma executive who paid Joe Biden $5 million, paid Hunter Biden $5 million to do what? To stop the prosecution of Burisma by the Ukrainian prosecutor, and Joe Biden bragged about it on television.
Okay, so let me just say this. This is a complicated situation that requires a lot of backstory. I'm not going to get into all of the backstory, but Burisma is an energy company, kind of like, I don't know, Appalachian Power or Con Ed or whatever. They're just they're the power company in Ukraine, or one of the power companies that like keeps lights on. What's the name of the Texas one? ERCOT or ERGOT or ERCOT, something like that. Anyways, they're just a power company. That's all. That's what they do. Now, Ukraine's had a problem with corruption for many, many, many years. You know, they've been trying to get into NATO for like a long, long time, but the U.S. will not accept them into NATO. Nobody will accept them into NATO because of the corruption. So, yes, the United States, a lot of, presidents and vice presidents and stuff have pressured Ukraine to do certain things to clean up corruption, like end political investigations into power companies or into whatever. There's a prosecutor that was investigating Burisma, I believe, because the prosecutor was mad at Burisma for something. It was a completely politically motivated thing, obviously. It was obvious to everybody, even Trump supporters at the time. It was 100% politically motivated. So Joe Biden and Obama and some others basically pressured Ukraine to fire this prosecutor because he was corrupt. He was a corrupt prosecutor, obviously. And end the investigation into Burisma because it was politically motivated. And they did. So they successfully got this prosecutor out. Now, what did Joe Biden do exactly? He went on TV, and I don't know that I even call it bragging, but he used it as like evidence of accomplishments. Yes, we accomplished ending some level of corruption in Ukraine. We accomplished making Ukraine a less corrupt place by ending this investigation into Burisma, among other things. Like I said, there's never any like concern that Ukraine was going to be accepted into NATO. That was just Russia posturing and coming up with a reason to excuse their invasion after the fact. They were never going to be part of NATO, not until they cleaned up the corruption. So, anyways, yeah, that's what he's talking about. Joe Biden went on TV and bragged. No, he went on TV to talk about the fact that he got this accomplishment done. ERCOT, that's what ERCOT, ERCOT. Yeah, that's the Texas energy company. I could not remember. I keep confusing it with ergo, which is that fungus that you grow to. It's like the precursor to making LSD. So very different things. ERCOT, not the same.
So here we have two phone calls with a Burisma executive who paid Joe Biden $5 million, paid Hunter Biden $5 million to do what? To stop the prosecution of Burisma by the Ukrainian prosecutor.
Yeah, so what he's doing is building a gigantic conspiracy theory he has no evidence for at all. The U.S. has been working with Ukraine to end corruption for a long, long time.
And Joe Biden bragged about it on television when he was vice president, saying, yeah, I held up $1 billion. I told them if they didn't fire that guy before I left town in 6 hours, then they weren't going to get the money.
Exactly. That's exactly correct. Yes, he did do that. That was him making a point of showing that he was trying to root out corruption in Ukraine. Corruption has been a long-running problem in Ukraine. I can't believe people forgot about this. Did he forget about this? He probably didn't forget. He's probably just propagandizing intentionally. I wouldn't put it past him.
Well, guess what? With a few choice words he said, they fired that guy. Joe Biden is part of a crime family. The evidence has been sitting in the FBI's office for years. They hid it. Not only does Joe Biden need to be prosecuted and Hunter Biden be prosecuted, but everyone at the FBI that participated in the cover-up needs to be prosecuted. The evidence...
There's no cover-up to be had here. Like, this is just completely fabricated.
I can't wait for Kevin McCarthy and his team on the House side to get a hold of this stuff.
Yeah, amen. And we're going to have, Pastor Hank, we got to keep praying here. We got to keep the pressure on this happening here. Explain what you see with this, Pastor Hank. I know you've got some insight here that maybe we're not seeing.
Yeah, he's got some insight, right, from God. God is providing him insight into this situation. Absolutely. Totally.
Well, I think, again, we go back to Luke 18, we go to the Word of God, and that was that there was just a common woman, a widow who pressed an unjust judge who didn't regard God or man, and her persistent caused there to be avenging of our enemies speedily. And then the Scripture says, will the Son of Man find faith when he comes upon the earth? And I think now is the time that we need to come into agreement with something that is so key, and that is this. The Bible says in Psalm 9,
Dude, what is he even saying right now? I'm trying to make sense of this, and it sounds like complete nonsense to me. Is it just me? What the hell is he saying?
Scripture says, will the Son of Man find faith when he comes upon the earth? And I think now is the time that we need to come into agreement with something that is so key, and that is this. The Bible says in Psalm 92 that God's foundation is righteousness and justice. When we come into agreement with that, when we speak that and decree that and literally say, God, it's time for your righteousness and justice to be manifested, it pulls it into the earth, and the truly guilty really begin to be brought out. And what we're in right now is in a time of great exposure. But you know what we need is, the FBI has become the Federal Bureau of Invisible, where
Federal Bureau of Invisible, he says. Okay.
they pick and choose what they're going to really begin to reveal and show and all of that. And people have had enough. And what we don't realize is in the 2020 election, there was 75 million, 80 million, I mean, sometimes I've heard more, who really voted for 45.
No. Sometimes I've heard more, he says. No. There were not more than 80 million. There weren't even 80 million people that voted for Trump. Like, this is completely fabricated.
And those people are not going away. The numbers are continuing to grow because people who are watching what is happening are not being fooled. And you could see it on that CNN gentleman that was on in the earlier clip. I'm like, what planet are you from, dude? Can you not see that you're not absolutely being convincible? We all know.
You're absolutely not being convincible? Is that what are you talking about, Hank? Nothing this dude's saying is making any sense whatsoever. And for the record, I think Trump got something like 72 or 73 million votes. I don't remember how many exactly. And Biden got like 81 million. So, yeah.
Know that those emails of Hillary were dirty. We all know that that laptop is the laptop from hell. And you know what? God is shining his light, and it's not going to go away. It's going to be exposed, and we have to keep our foot on the pedal.
Any 5 minutes now, right? It'll be exposed any 5 minutes. We're just waiting. It'll happen. You wait and see.
Because
right.
I believe there's going to come help from the hill. Not only God's hill, his throne, but there's going to come help, I believe, through Congress that is going to continue with McCarthy and these others. They're going to push until the evidence absolutely demands a verdict. And we're going to see that in the United States of America.
I believe that to be true, and I'm
totally
standing on that. But we're going to, like you said, we're keeping our foot on the gas. Let's look at what Ted Cruz had to say, and he tweeted this about it. It's been obvious.
Oh, my God. Ted Cruz is a propagandist for Trump. Honestly, why? I don't get it. Why does he propagandize for this guy when Trump makes fun of his wife and says she's ugly and all kinds of stuff, tweets out pictures of her like that are very, very unflattering? Dude, if I were Ted Cruz's wife, I would divorce his ass. He has no respect for me or anybody else or himself. More importantly, no respect for me or himself. It's like embarrassing and painful and sad. And what's Ted Cruz doing now? Propagandizing for Trump. Honestly sad.
At what Ted Cruz had to say, and he tweeted this about it. It's been obvious for quite some time that Biden's partisan Democrat lackeys at the DOJ and FBI have been working to cover up allegations of corruption against Joe Biden. If the FBI was this blatantly complicit in stonewalling, it's deeply disturbing. John, I'll go to you out of that. I mean, I don't see how you can say it was anything other than blatantly complicit in stonewalling.
So this is an episode of Flashpoint that's intended to talk about Trump being indicted, right? The title of the thing is Trump Indicted and American Awakening. Trump indicted an American awakening. We're not even in part 2 yet of this. They always have 2 parts to this TV show. Why are we talking about Hunter Biden and Hillary Clinton and everybody except for Donald Trump? You know why? That's how they defend Trump. Claim that everyone else did it too, or everyone else did it worse, or whatever. It's always everyone else's fault, never Trump's.
It seems to me that's exactly what they had. What's your thoughts?
I agree with that. It's stonewalling. They are covering evidence up. Today, we must keep our eyes open to what's really going on. There's a nefarious plan and strategy to turn America upside down. Much of this stuff is what we call cultural Marxism. As we look at all of the division that is being pushed in America, it's oftentimes blacks versus whites, the oppressed versus the oppressor. During the pandemic, it was the vaxxed versus the unvaxxed. Today,
like, who is drawing these distinctions between people? What is he even talking about right now?
It's the LGBTQIA plus community versus those who are straight. There's so much division being...
Dude, like, I'm straight and I am not, like, opposed to the LGBT community. What are you talking about? And I love it how and I love it how he says every letter in the acronym, and I believe he said it correctly, didn't he? LGBTQIA+. Kind of funny. This dude obviously doesn't care about, like, the LGBT community at all, but somehow actually got the acronym correct. That's fascinating. I don't use the whole acronym. I just go with LGBT. Eventually there will come a time, or LGBTQ sometimes, I suppose. Eventually there will come a time when it's more appropriate to use the term LGBTQIA+ rather than LGBT. And when that time comes, that's fine. I'll switch over. I've just, I don't really see a problem with just using the regular old LGBT. And people are aware that it's like all inclusive. Like, I'm talking about everybody when I say that, so.
Being pushed. We can't find true news. We oftentimes hear fake news, and we're in a position where we don't know what to believe and who to believe. And so we must continue to keep our eyes open and remain vigilant at the same time. Scripture tells us that vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, and what is right I will repay. But the church has a role. We must engage in the public square. We cannot be silent. If Christians, if believers would vote, we would rid ourselves of many of these ills that we contend with.
Right. If we would vote. Isn't it fascinating watching these people erode the line between church and state even more? Jesus Christ, dude. They have, like, no scruples. That's the word I was looking for. No scruples with these people.
All right, so John, let me play the other side. How can you call yourself a believer? There are those Christians that we call the wimpy believers of America that don't really have a backbone. And
wimpy believers of America, okay.
And so they say, well, we need to be more loving. And I would encourage everybody, by the way, go follow John on social media, all of his social media sites, because you'll be educated. But John, how do you, as a believer, and you're a pastor too, how do you keep that balance between being strong enough that you call out what's wrong, but being sensitive enough to carry the love of Christ into the...
Carry the love of Christ. Isn't it fascinating that they seem to recognize that Jesus was about love, but they would rather zero in on the hate part? What was it he said just now? Believers have no backbone, and they say, like, they just want to be about love, what Jesus was about. But apparently that's not good enough. You have to take that extra step of being a scumbag and not showing love to people.
All out what's wrong, but being sensitive enough to carry the love of Christ into the situation.
You must understand that truth is love. We must peddle the truth.
Wow. Okay. We must peddle the truth. I don't usually hear it referred to that way, peddling the truth. Usually I hear peddling referred to in a negative way. They're peddling a grift. They're peddling snake oil sales, something like that. Isn't that funny? We must peddle the truth. Okay.
And oftentimes today, people are silent on the truth because they don't want to be canceled. They don't want to be deplatformed. So therefore, they say what's not factual and what's not true.
Okay, so Republicans talk a lot about cancel culture. I just want to touch on this. And, being woke and canceling anybody that disagrees with you, blah, blah, blah. Republicans are actually perpetrating cancel culture. They cancel anybody that disagrees with. They canceled Target, for example. Remember the Target boycott? They canceled Bud Light. They cancel anybody they don't like. They even have a saying for it: woke is broke. What happened to all that stuff about cancel culture? Never cared about it from the start, did you? It was all about propagandizing above all else.
To go along, to get along. But Christians can't take that position, especially pastors. Pastors are called to be watchmen, but watchmen are called not simply to watch, but to warn. We must blow the trumpet at all times. And what I'm noticing steadily is this, that weak pulpits create weak Christians.
Right. So the question was, why are you such a vicious, homophobic scumbag to the people around you when Jesus stood for love and acceptance? His answer: weak pastors create weak churches. Wow, dude.
That weak pulpits create weak Christians. Weak pulpits create weak Christians. And the reason why the church is afraid, Christians are afraid to speak up, we're silent, we have surrendered our voice, is because many of our pulpits have grown silent. They won't speak up. Pastors are afraid of the truth. And I say to every preacher out there that straddles the fence, they hem and haw, they equivocate. It's time for you to draw the line in the sand because...
Wait. They hem and haw and equivocate? How are they equivocating? What are you talking about? Are you just using random words that you think fit? Equivocate does not fit in this sentence at all.
And haw, they equivocate. It's time for you to draw the line in the sand because blood will be on your hands if you fail to speak truth to power.
I wish you were...
They believe they're speaking truth to power. They think that what they're doing, defending Trump, is speaking truth to power. Absurd.
If you fail to speak truth to power.
I wish you could just say what you think a little more, just a little more. Pastor John, Pastor Hank, let me go to you out of that.
I think he meant, I wish you could say what I think just a little bit more.
As you're a senior pastor there of church in the other part of the country. Do you agree with John Amanchukwu on that story?
Absolutely. The book of Ecclesiastes, chapter 10, verse 8 says that if you dig a pit, you're going to fall into it. And a lot of these pastors don't realize that the pit that they're falling into, and as well as what they're creating for our country, is their lack of speaking up. Their cowardness is creating an own pit for them.
Okay, I think it's cowardice, not cowardness. And creating, what was the last thing he said? Listen again.
Their lack of speaking up, their cowardness is creating an own pit for them.
An own pit. Okay, go on. Let him cook. Let him cook. Maybe he's got more.
Themselves, that ultimately they're not going to receive the blessing of God, because God right now wants to save this country. It's in process. He's also reaching the children that demand that we stand up and speak for them. But here's the real deal. Here at Lord of Hosts Church in Omaha, Nebraska, I have an obligation to Jesus Christ in Ephesians 4:11, who set me in this office as a pastor. And my job is to speak what His Word says and not cower to the culture or, watch this, cower because I'm afraid of any kind of pushback.
Like, is anybody a Trump supporter, or is any Trump supporter quiet because they're afraid of pushback? Really? I mean, I guess some of them probably.
Can't do that. Persecution will come for the word's sake. Well, we need to continue to stand on what the Word says regarding traditional marriage, regarding what's happening in our culture and how they're redefining terms. And what I've also realized...
What he means when he says redefining terms is redefining what marriage is. That's what he's trying to say. That some secretive, ambiguous they is out there redefining marriage to be, instead of one man and one woman, a union between two consenting adults. That is my ideal definition of marriage, I think. A union between two consenting adults. I guess they don't like that, definition. Probably the word adult that they weren't a huge fan of, based on how many child marriage bills are being passed by Republicans at this immediate moment, but that's neither here nor there.
Lastly is this. I have an obligation to my sheep. I am, Psalm 23, to those
sheeple.
Sheep. I am to cause the rod and thy staff to not only comfort them, but if I see the enemy harassing them or coming at them, my job is to ward off the prey. And when we see things coming at them, when they had
that's what she said.
Forced vaccinations, when they were trying to shut down our churches, when, they were telling the children in school that trying to redefine their gender. If a pastor is silent,
none of this stuff happened. What was it he just listed? Listen again.
They were trying to shut down our churches when
they just wanted. Okay, when I say they, I mean, you know what? Me. I wanted you to hold services on Zoom for a couple of months to save people's lives. That's it. That's all I was asking. They couldn't even do that. I wasn't asking you to shut your church down.
At them when they had forced vaccinations.
That never happened either. There was at no point ever in the United States a vaccine mandate. There was a testing mandate that you could be exempted from if you got vaccinated. So companies that were larger than like 100 employees or something were required to get tested weekly for COVID or show that they've been vaccinated, one or the other. And they extrapolated that into being persecuted because they're being forced to get vaccinated. No, you just have to show that you're trying to help and protect society, just like everybody. That's it. By getting tested.
When they were trying to shut down our churches, they were telling the children in school that trying to redefine their gender. If a pastor...
Dude, what are you talking about? What does this even mean? Children in school, they're trying to redefine gender of children in school? What?
Pastor is silent. You're not being a true shepherd. You're being a hireling. And your job as a pastor is to protect your congregation. And it demands that you stand up for them and you tell them the truth at all costs. And that's how we're going to take back not only our country, but it's how we're going to strengthen the Lord's church, that it becomes that glorious church that Jesus rightfully paid for, not for cowardness.
Amen.
It's cowardice. Cowardice, not cowardness. This dude is insufferable.
Amen. Thank God for you both. Strong believers, strong pastors, strong leaders. Thank you for doing that. All right, we're going to take a break. Before we go, I want to leave you with this thought. Why are the lines on the LGBT flag straight? I don't understand that. Don't go away.
You know what? He's got a point. You know what? I think he's right. We should redesign the flag to make the lines wavy. I like that. Yeah, okay, I guess that's the end of this first half. That's crazy, dude. Oh, my God. These people need help. Seriously. These people need help desperately. Yeah, let me know what you think about that in the comments. I thought that was kind of interesting. And some of it was kind of funny, too.